Public safety departments are predominantly police and fire departments. You know, you see them as a public, you know, when they're responding to an emergency or an accident or a fire or ambulance service, but they do so much more for our community. From police and, you know, dealing with opioid addiction to fire and dealing with fire prevention and teaching our students in the schools. It's just amazing what they can do in both of those departments. Every single staff member in those departments is completely dedicated, beyond dedication, to their jobs. Both of our stations, police station, fire station, are decades old. They have significant maintenance issues. The departments, they were built at a time where, you know, the services were very, very different. And were completely adequate at that time. Under today's service models, they're not. You know, both stations are undersized. Both stations, you know, have issues with deferred maintenance. The fire department has issues with safety for both the firefighters and the public.
Building is just not conducive to modifying the electrical system, the way the building was constructed. You know, it's a concrete building. Same with the plumbing. It's not as easy just to run a new pipe. It's just not physically possible in this building. Space challenges that we have here are astronomical. We're limited storage out here. Our turnout gear is on the wall, exposed to all of the diesel dust. Folks, when they get their gear to go onto a call, they actually have to climb over vehicles to get to their fire apparatus. They have to try to wiggle through, shimmy through, whack your knees off of bumpers, and hopefully you don't trip on the floor drains that are protruding from the floor because the concrete's all spalling and collapsing under trucks. On the living side of the building itself, very limited storage. Back in 1975, we had 3 folks in the building. Today, on a day shift, we have 11.
We're much more of an EMS-based system now. We focus more on public education, teaching classes, fire prevention, and community outreach. And unfortunately, the building right now limits the amount that we can interact with the residents of Pembroke. There are no female sleeping quarters. There's no female locker rooms, female showers. So again, as the fire service has continued to develop and become more modern, we've been welcoming more and more women into the fire service. Unfortunately, now Pembroke doesn't have any female firefighters. The last female left in 2021 to go to a neighboring community. So those are things that we as a fire department should be more open to welcoming females and giving them the services that are required.
The ability for our officers on a daily basis to do their job or just interact in the station is hampered significantly by the nature of this building. One of the big deficiencies is the access to the building for the members of the community. Access for the officers, just the back parking lot when you pull in, the lack of parking space, the lack of security for this building and the parking areas, which need to be secured sometimes because of the nature of the business that we do. We don't have a proper training room. We don't have a roll call room where we can communicate between shifts.
So we lack handicap accessibility, which is huge. We lack restrooms. We have 1 male and 1 female restroom on the main floor.
The building just lacks space, and space is taken up through growth, and growth is not just the people that come into this building, the police officers, the men and women, but the storage space that requires us by law, whether it's evidence, whether it's recovered property, whether it's records. We have a room that's basically, it's an attic and it's not insulated properly, so it gets really hot during the summer and really cold during the winter, and some of that evidence is compromised because of the lack of a controlled environment. We had a cold case, murder case back 30 plus years ago where evidence was taken during this murder case, and the state had preserved that evidence. And if that was something that was relied on us to preserve, that probably would not have been resolved through DNA, because the situation with our property and evidence room would not be in the conditions to preserve something 30 plus years.
We've taken a look at where we're at from a model standpoint, and I know it's been discussed. Different committees have looked at separate buildings for police and fire. Really, the model that's out there right now is a joint public safety building, and there's a lot of advantages to doing that.
Us sharing the same footprint with the fire department, which we have a great working relationship, and be able to save space when it comes to common areas that we can share, i.e. the gym, training rooms, things of that nature, and then have a community room which we can share with the community, which is like something we don't have in this town now to begin with. The community center will help that, but it would not be as good as what we want for when it comes to training. The ability to have an emergency operations center where our PEMA team can meet along with other figureheads from the town during these type of operations. We don't have that. Right now we rely on cell phones and radios to communicate. And if the grid's down, there goes the ability to have certain parts of that communication when it comes to radios. And we have to depend on fossil fuel to run generators that don't always work.
Fortunately, we have an excellent relationship with the fire department. So that would be one of my top priorities, is being close to them. If we receive a 911 call, we can just tell them in the next room exactly what's going on. There's no delay in, calling over on the telephone. I think it's more efficient. There's one building, we probably only need one set of IT coming in. I just think financially it makes sense to have one building.
As far as the public goes, we'll be able to host classes where moving forward in the future, that's our intent here at the fire department, is to offer safety classes, CPR classes open to the public, where that would be a prime facility, to be able to hold those classes. And also have other classes come in and use it as a venue to train us and the police department, whether it's separate or together. So the building itself, it's a twofold thing. So as far as employee recruitment and employee retention, if you get up every morning to come to work in a facility that's not so great and maybe not safe for you, bad air we'll call it, you might look to go to another department or a different community that prepares a little bit more for their employees or puts a little bit more effort into providing facilities that will keep employees longer. And also it's the same for recruiting new employees. They might take a pass.
I look at this as if I was a resident, what would I want in my town when it comes to a good education with the school system, public safety, and what that means. And the optic, well, what means to have public safety? Is it a building? Is it the people that work inside of it? Is it both? Right now I can tell you that it's the people that work inside that make it happen, but it should be both, because if you don't take care of the people that are taking care of you, then what do you expect to have for that resource to help you when they don't feel like they have the tools to do their job completely? And eventually it becomes a morale issue, and then you don't attract the right people for that job. So public safety will definitely take a hit down the road. We're not there yet, but I think of this as you have to think, what are we going to do like 5 years from now?
Our public safety staff deserves a new building. And on the site plans, we're looking at a station at Washington and Barker at the intersection there, virtually across the street from our current Station 3. And then we have a station planned as a satellite station on School Street adjacent to Monroe Street, also on property that the town already owns. So we're not buying any property the town has bought, and we already own all the property where we're planning this. I know there's a lot of discussion about the Turner House. I mean, ultimately the HDC has jurisdiction over that area because it's in the Historic District Commission. They've given us permission to move the house, and we're planning to move forward with that.
Right now, we respond out of the station on Center Street. We have to cover the whole town from that station. This new project will significantly improve our response times. It'll put the majority of the town in less than 5-minute response time area, which is significantly important. Today's fires burn much hotter and faster than they have in the past, which means our firefighters need to get on scene much quicker. Medical emergencies is another important area. More than 75% of our call volume is medical emergencies. We have overdoses, cardiac arrest, diabetic emergencies. In all these emergencies, time makes a big difference. In the case of a cardiac arrest, your chances of survival decrease by every minute. So that's why when we talk about improving our response time by 2 or 3 minutes to a vast majority of this town, it will make a big difference. When we have a station at Route 53 and Barker Street, we'll be able to significantly improve our response times to the northern part of town, which over the years has really built up. We have a very high call volume from that area. And the same goes with school and Monroe Street. It will significantly improve our response times to the southern part of the community. With this new plan, everywhere in town will be covered within 7 minutes, which is really important. The vast majority of the response time will be less than 5 minutes. So these response times will save lives.
The total project cost is $61,140,000, and then that's broken out to just over $42 million in actual construction costs. The average taxpayer cost is about $45 to $48 a month. That is $545 to $586 a year on your tax bill. May 9th, town meeting, 7 o'clock at the Pembroke High School will be the vote for the appropriation. And then there'll be a required Proposition 2.5 debt exclusion vote on May 13th at the annual town election. We would certainly ask for the public support for our firefighters and our police officers, and our public safety deserve the best we can offer